Hello, everybody. Sunday Adelaja here from Kyiv, Ukraine. Welcome back to our program that we normally do on Sunday evenings. And this is the Creative and Innovative Hour. Creative and Innovative Hour. And today I'm having an interesting visitor, a phenomenal story. I've already profiled her story on my blog a few times. Her name is Njeri Rionge. I think it's Rionge. I hope I pronounce that name well. But it's Njeri Rionge. And this is a Kenyan lady that has a phenomenon story, like almost unbelievable. You know, from the story that I profiled on my blog, we told more of her beginning. But today, we are going to be talking more about her future. Her future, the future that she wants to build, not just for herself, but the future she wants to build for all of us, especially for Africa and for Africans. So she's not looking back to what she has already done. She's looking more forward towards the greater things she wants to do. So this lady started as a hairdresser. And I think she was even doing some even more petty trade and work before she became a hairdresser. But how can somebody go from a hairdresser to becoming a multi-millionaire and owning one of the biggest, most capitalized company in Eastern Africa and in Kenya? So phenomenal lady. So I want to introduce you right now to Njeri Rionge. Hello, my sister. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be with you on your show.
Why are you so phenomenal?
Because God loves me.
I would have thought that you are not the only one God loves in the whole wide world.
He loves everyone, but he loves me even more. And I know because you shall know them by their fruits, and I have seen his fruits.
Ooh, wow.
Ooh, yeah.
But when you started out in the streets of, is it Mombasa?
Nairobi.
When you started out in the streets of Nairobi, you never thought God loved you initially.
I think I knew he did. I just didn't understand the extent that he did.
So you started out?
I was saved when I was 5 years old. I came to the Lord when I was 5 years old.
Okay.
And I fell off the wayside many times. So I knew, deep down in my heart, I knew that he loved me. Because somehow I always had the guiding.
Yeah, because a lot of people today, they are like myself, who say, I don't think God loves me as much as he loves the other person. If he had loved me the way he loved the other person, I would have been born in a richer family, in a well-to-do environment, and my parents or uncles or family members would have taken care of me, sent me overseas, abroad, provided for all my needs. But in your own case, you took the bull by the horns.
Yes, by the power and the grace of God. And I had the family you just described. But I was still on my own.
So is it really true that you started as a hairdresser?
Yes, I did. But I think we need to qualify what that actually is.
Okay.
I started as a hairdresser, but my auntie and uncle's salon.
Okay.
So that's a qualifier.
Okay.
So when we were out of school, after the exams were hard, and then we were sitting at home waiting for the results to come out, members of my family, my mom said, well, they need to be kept busy, my sister and I. And so we were taken to the salon. And then when I got there, I found a life in the salon, and I was there for 5 years. But ideally, I was being taken there to put me out of trouble, as a 18-year-old girl.
But you didn't know that your entrepreneurship skills and talents
kicked in. Yes, kicked in when I got there. So when I went there to manage, the till and the stock, And then the next thing I knew, I was doing banking, I was managing the whole salon, I was running about doing stuff. And then I was there for 5 years. I was in the business for 5 years. And I even worked for someone else other than my relatives in that space. And I was a good hairdresser. And I still did all the things that people, and I did the things that people do when they're that age, like go out and show up at 6 a.m. to open the store from having come from hanging. Because even as much as I was a Christian, I was still, like I said, I've fallen off the wayside, I've come back and forth. So, but God's been there. He genuinely, really, truly has been by my side. Even when things were so dark, he was there.
So, but then from hairdressing, can you tell us the process of your advancement?
Yeah, so from hairdressing, I then left to go to school, and I went to Athens, Greece. I found myself in an American university, and I was there for a little while. And they were speaking Greek, and I had difficulty with the language, actually. And then during the 2-week spring break, there was an ad in the paper. The only English paper had an ad about this American company that was in Rome, in Italy, selling detergent. And I decided I needed something exciting to do. So I went to Italy I went to the place where they were doing the interviews, and they hired me, and they bought me my ticket and got me my hotel to go do the interview when I got to the other side. So I went and I arrived and I did the interview, and I actually stayed there for 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, I was the top 10 salesperson out of 100 salespeople. And then I was doing so well.
Well, you didn't have too many black people to sell to in Italy that time.
I was selling to Italians, but I was speaking to them English with an O at the end. Oh, my name O is so, everything I said was English with an O at the end, and they thought that was so funny. So I'd end up selling because everybody was so happy in the store or in the shop or in the business. So they'd be laughing, and then I'd eventually tell them what the price of my product was, and then they would buy. And that's what raised my sales.
Your profile.
And my profile. And I'd actually, one time I went to this little town, and out of 38 businesses, I sold to 36 businesses. And that week, I made over 3,000 American dollars in 1 week back in 1980 something.
And you never went back to Greece, to that university anymore?
That was it. That was the end of that.
You were done.
I was done. I was finished. I now became the salesperson, and I focused on making money. Anyway, so and then from there I went to London, and I was in London for a while.
But you had you now had moved to London with a reputation, is it?
I moved from Italy after my experience in Italy.
Yeah, but also with a reputation, isn't it?
Well, I guess you really wouldn't call it that at that point, because I was so young. I wasn't even paying attention to reputation. I was paying attention to my capacity to do anything I wanted to do. That's what I was paying attention to.
So you discovered your potential.
My energy.
Yes. Your potential.
I discovered my potential. I learned how to talk to people, regardless of who they were, where they were at. I learned how to sell myself. And so when I got into London, I actually ended up working for the Next Collection on Bond Street. And even there, I became a good salesperson at the floor. I sold, everywhere I went, I was top salesperson in whatever.
How could you have beaten the Indians in London? And the Pakistanis and the Bangladeshis.
I was on Bond Street. I was actually on Bond Street. So the stores where I was, there were no Asians.
They didn't come to compete there?
No, because I was working for a retailer who most of the clothes in that retail store were not really bought by, you know,
But
it was a high
if
end.
you go back to that street now, you will see a lot of Indians
Very
there, I
different.
bet you.
Oh, yes. Every country I've been that I've gone back 20 years later, it's been so amazing to see how demographics can change on a country, on a city, on economical status has changed. I mean, I can speak on many levels about what has happened, including the one that blew my mind the most is when after 20 years I went back to Dallas, Texas. What used to be an oil city with all the oil rich Americans was completely Asian. And when it wasn't Asian, it was Spanish or Mexican. And it just blew my mind. 20 years later, the juxtaposed position of the places I'd been are so different.
Wow.
Globalization is real.
Wow. So it's good that you can reconnect, you can recollect and reconnect all the dots.
All the dots, yes. And so I can see, for example, if you take any developed marketplace, let's take the US or North America,
Okay.
and then let's take Africa.
Okay.
And look at it as a continent. If you think that Canada is 150 years of democratic, economy, and then the US is about 300 years, 250, 300.
Yes.
And then you think Africa is Africa 50.
Okay.
You can almost see what Africa will look like at Africa 100.
But if you if you say that to most Africans now, they will almost not believe you.
Well, but the truth of the matter is, I guarantee you, this is already happening. And the question I pose to the African, are you aware, as you waste your time talking about shenanigans, money is going to flow, assets will be purchased, and you won't even know it. So the situation where I went into cities and found rich locals, or locals as it were. And then 20 years later, I went back and found Asians and Mexicans, so to speak. That is going to happen to Africa if we're not careful. And
so
we need to stop
globalization is real.
It is actually real. And the economy, what actually changes the temperament of an environment is money. So if you don't have the money, you're in trouble. And if your money, and then so it's a money factor, it's a youth factor, it's the energy factor. Don't get too comfortable. Because I bet you the US got too comfortable. And when they got too comfortable and handed over their reins to immigrants, so to speak, this is why they wake up and start saying, oh, we want to build America great, make America great again. There's no such thing as making America great again. It's already great with whoever's there now. You might not like who you see, but who you see is who's built it up till now. And they also have a right to the economic wealth and position. So Africa needs to pay attention to what is going to happen 50 years from now if we don't sort out our politics, if we don't sort out our reengineering. We really need to think about how we look at our central banks. We need to re-engineer everything. Historically, there's way too much colonial policies and systems that were designed for another era and another time. And it's not beneficial for us at all. It hasn't been and will not be. So we must shift gear. We must walk into our boardrooms with a clean slate and a new way of thinking. We need to go back to our heart, the God heart, the heart that we were given by God. That's what we need to go back to, not our heads. We need to go back to our heart and bring a whole new clean slate, new canvas. Take all the numbers and rewrite the story with a new business, financial, analytical process.
Is there anything
Re-engineer our finance.
Is there really anything like a clean slate if you need to build on what other people have already built on and achieved?
I think when I say clean slate, so of course I agree with you. You can't you have to take what you have, but you have to what I'm referring to is the stuff that's not working. We need to get rid of stuff that's not working and then rebuild on what's not working by re-engineering what has worked. But what we know for sure hasn't worked must really get out the door. And you know what? It's actually going to be taken care of by technology as we speak.
Yeah.
And it's also going to be taken care of by the youth because there's a new way of thinking. The circular economy is a new way of thinking, and we need to start thinking about that. And we need to stop using old ways to build new economies, especially in the era of technology as we know it today. And we also must agree that it cannot be about how much money I have in my pocket. It has to be about how much money is available to build the future for our children and our children's children. That is how we should be thinking. Anybody who wakes up in the morning to go cut a deal for themselves, essentially they are dead walking. They're walking dead. In today's day, how many beds can you actually sleep on? How many cars can you drive? How much do you really need? And the saddest thing is, on an African level, a lot of resources and our cash is sitting in international banks, i.e., without doing anything. It's okay to bank elsewhere, as long as you are using what you're banking to regenerate wealth for your continent. But if what you're doing is generating wealth for others somewhere else, while I don't know, what would you be doing when you're doing something like that? The money should be flowing in the continent, on a continuum. That's where the money should be. So if you stole money and took it to Switzerland, you're only benefiting the European Union. And you really need to change that. You need to bring back the money, and you need to call yourself out and bring back the money. Find a way of bringing it back, because it cannot be helping anyone when it's sitting somewhere else.
Can you help people to turn that around and bring some money back? Are you building a system to help Africans?
Well, I'd actually hope that they can invest in my fund. That would be one way of bringing it back.
Tell us about that.
Well, the fund is an African fund. It's focused on 6 sectors.
Okay, let's do this. Before you go ahead and speak about your fund, let me just do a video as caution about you. I will come back to you. Yes, video.
Okay.
That Kakoita is Nick packaging. Yeah. So we'll just take a break.
I like that.
Because we are shifting the gear.
And I actually didn't realize we were going to shift the gear so quickly. Sorry. I was going to tell you a lot of other things, but you know what? The Holy Spirit is leading. This is
yeah. I didn't know it was going to go that dynamically too.
It went so quickly. I can't even believe. But hey, this is what happens.
Yep.
When you surrender. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do the video now.
Okay.
You're watching Beyond 100 Days. Theresa May is touting her ability to make trade deals after Brexit, starting in Africa.
There is serious profit to be found in these emerging economies, but only as equal partners. The colonial links now count for very little.
Mrs May has outlined Britain's first post-Brexit trade deal in southern Africa, rejecting criticism that the UK has ignored the continent for too long.
We're already
After
the biggest investor here in South Africa. I want to see that investment grow in future.
After appeals from his own staff, Donald Trump reverses course, paying a late tribute to Senator John McCain and lowering the flag at the White House.
Also on the programme, Donald Trump thinks Google is burying favourable news about the White House. The president is demanding greater transparency.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
And the fans gather to pay respect to the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Get in touch with us, the hashtag Beyond 100 Days.
Hello, I'm Katty Kane, Washington. Christian Fraser is in London. Theresa May is on a trade mission to Africa, a visit many think is long overdue. President Macron of France has made 9 trips to the continent since he became president, and Angela Merkel will arrive in Nigeria shortly after Mrs. May leaves. The big Western powers are taking a new interest.
Britain is already the second biggest aid donor to Africa after the United States, and the plan is to use that aid to support private sector investment on the continent. But Africa will never replace the trade the UK currently has with Europe. Britain's exports to the EU are £240 billion. Compare that to annual exports to South Africa and Nigeria, just £3 billion. Still, the Prime Minister believes there is plenty of potential.
One of the benefits of leaving the European Union is that we will be able to negotiate our own trade deals in the future. And we look to a global Britain outside the European Union, making the most of those trade deals around the west of the world. We're already the biggest investor here in South Africa. I want to see that investment grow in future.
Mrs. May there. Well, there is good reason why Europe and the United States are taking a strong interest in the continent.
Yeah, consider for a moment some of these facts about these emerging economies. Africa is home to 7 out of 10 of the world's fastest growing economies. It has the fastest growing middle class in the world. The continent has a population of over 1 billion, with 75% under the age of 35. Africa's middle class is projected to grow to 1.1 billion by 2060. And the average GDP for the last 5 years, 5.5%. The UK's growth for the same period was 1.8%.
Well, we're joined now from Toronto by Njeri Rionge. She's the CEO of Upcountry Africa Fund Assets Corporation. It aims to invest in technology, education and in financing projects across Africa. She's from Kenya and is regularly cited as the country's most successful entrepreneur. Thanks very much for joining us. How much benefit does the trade deal that Mrs. May outlined today have, not just for the United Kingdom, but for the African countries she's planning to invest in?
I think the opportunity for the UK is grand for as long as the agenda and the partnership agreements and the structures of the deals are actually in favour of all parties and all the stakeholders. There is absolutely no reason why any investor investing on the continent today will not make a return, because we have seen this already in the last 5 years. But it has to be really based on equal opportunities for all.
Njeri, you've been involved with a lot of the companies that come to Kenya. Give us an example, if you would, of an investment that has gone wrong and why.
So an investment that actually did go wrong was based on the premise that a fund manager and the actual assets that were structured were operated by people who made sure that whatever they did not provide any return for the actual founder or minority shareholders. And what instead happened is that the structures were favorable to international investors, but not to the local investors. This has happened consistently on many occasions, not just based on what has actually happened to me, based on the investment that the company that I started back in 1999. And I know that this is a very tricky conversation to be having, because we are actually in court. So I cannot speak to things in detail, but I can say that I have seen this firsthand.
But to put it bluntly, companies have come to Africa, private investments have come to Africa and plundered, rather than ploughing the profits back into African communities.
Absolutely. And there are very many examples of such types of arrangements where the investment actually comes in to support investors or to support the people who will work within those companies who get paid huge salaries and they don't even transfer the skills back to the organizations that they've put money into. And this particularly happens within the DFIs, the development fund opportunities within the NGOs.
Ms. Rionge, today, as we said, Theresa May outlined a $4 billion investment from the UK. Back in 2014, China proposed a $175 billion investment in Africa over the course of 10 years. In your assessment and looking at the way these investments are done, would you rather the money came from the United Kingdom or from China? Or doesn't it matter?
I think it really doesn't matter where it's coming from. What matters is the structure of the investment itself. To be very honest and very sincere, I think there's skills across the different spectrums. The UK will come with a set of skills and competencies and capacities and nuances that they understand the markets very well, since they were the first colonizers in some cases. And then of course China will come into play as well based on other skill sets. So I think it's important for us to say that the continent is open for business, but it's open for business to do business with investors that are actually interested in having a level playing field in the arrangements on the returns, as well as the opportunities for transferring skills while at it.
Okay.
All right, that is Njeri right there. Yeah, let that play too.
My name is Njeri Rionge. I live and work in Toronto, and I'm a global citizen and an avid Pan-Africanist. I enjoy life. I have many facets that give me great satisfaction. Over the years, I've had the pleasure to mentor, inspire, and coach individuals and corporate teams.
I have been a CEO founder for many years, working in many sectors and industries, consistently enhancing my skills to support investments with issuers and build relationships with investors of my full-time role. As CEO of Upcountry Africa Fund Asset Corporation, I strive to share my experiences, especially if I can help to find your groove back from a transition in career, entrepreneurial fatigue, and all back to work from a period of time away from work. I will be the first to let you know that relationships are everything. Transferring skills and sharing a gift that we all must endure to give to others. This is why in all that I do, I enjoy to impact others along the way, to fulfill my purpose here on earth as a sign of my love to you.
Thank you for taking the time to connect. To sign up for one of my sessions, please subscribe below.
All right, that is the lady right there, by way of introduction. So I know you have Africa on your heart, on your mind. You are passionate about Africa, and you mentioned it already that a lot of Africa's money is in Europe and scattered all over the world. And you said you have a plan about that, and you are not limiting yourself to Kenya. You are not limiting yourself to Canada, but you want to face Africa head on.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
The God I serve says to me the following in Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I am therefore completely aware of my capacity to make a difference on the continent by doing diligently what I have been shown to do. So the fund is a huge fund, and its focus is to attract institutional money, money from high net worth individuals for those investors to invest in the fund, allows them, when they do invest in the fund, to put money away for 10 10 years, because the fund is a 10 plus 2 term, and it locks up that money so that we have enough time to identify local assets on the continent that have capacity to be re-engineered, re-corporatized, and grown and build brand value propositions that move companies that are successful in one country across the continent. We've seen Coca-Cola in Africa. Coca-Cola started in Atlanta somewhere or somewhere in the US, but it's now all over the world. Well, we need to see companies that are in Africa, owned by Africans, doing exactly the same thing. And how are they going to do that? They're going to do that when we identify them as fund managers and investors, and we go in and bring the skill sets that allow those entities to pivot. That is how we do it. And we identify sectors that make sense. We have identified sectors that make sense for us. And we also have come into contact with companies that would be of interest to us, that have exactly that profile that I just pre-described. And the reason why I spoke about the money that sits in Europe and elsewhere is because I know we have trillions of dollars globally around the world that's sitting in banks where it's not earning any interest. And people have a lockout period and they don't probably even know what their interest, they have so much money out there in banks that they don't even actually know what they have. And so we're saying, you know what? Go back and revisit those bank accounts and actually start investing money into fund managers that understand the continent, that understand what is required, and who actually have a track record, which is what we have as Upcountry Africa Fund. We have a track record of doing business on the continent successfully. We've had our share of failure. We've had our share of success. We've had our share of experience, not just on the continent, but we've also had our share of experience in other marketplaces. So we're able to juxtapose our experiences into the nuance of the change that we want to see.
Yeah, by the way, the company that you built, you started from the scratch in 99. Yes. It grew up to be over $100 million from my information.
Yes, it's well worth that much more, actually. And it's a big conglomerate with very many different companies within it, and they're in East Africa, with the potential of actually investing. Some of the assets could be investing in Nigeria. But I became such a minority shareholder, so I'm not involved in the day-to-day running. What I do is what we do is receive investor reports, shareholder reports.
But what about that size of a company?
Yes.
How many kind of companies like that are in Kenya? Because there are not too
just
many.
Kenya.
Okay, there are not
there
too
are
many
many
billion.
Companies.
Not too many billion companies in Kenya.
$1 billion?
Yes.
Or shillings?
Dollars.
Oh, there are actually quite a number.
Okay.
You just wouldn't know about them.
Okay.
You just want to know about them. You see, this is the problem we make. Every single country on the continent, I believe there's over 600 companies on the continent that are well over $1 billion in revenue.
Wow.
Yes.
I know you have a lot of those in Nigeria, but I didn't think of Kenya having a lot of those.
We have them in Kenya as well.
You know, because the last I saw of 500 leading companies in Africa, most of them were from South Africa, then Nigeria and Egypt.
Ghana? Egypt. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have a few in Kenya. We definitely have a few in Kenya. And remember, again, my mind, when I look at assets, I'm not looking at what they're doing today. I'm looking at what they can do tomorrow. So if I was doing projections and I did the financial engineering as it should be done, there are very many assets, across, even beyond the 500 you're talking about. Because when I said 600, I was actually talking about the African ones. And there are more if we actually re-engineer the way we think, and do the financials and back the companies that require backing, financial backing, there's well over the 500 or the 600 I was talking about on the continent, well over. But you wouldn't even see it or notice it because don't forget, there's a whole other list of international entities that actually just do business and take all the money out of the continent. We have $196 billion leaving the continent every year.
Wow.
Because of international relations and international businesses in mining, in energy. You know, why is that happening? What are we doing about that? We only have 54 billion coming into the continent. And a good chunk of that is coming from diaspora. Actually, they say it's about 89 billion coming into the continent, and a good chunk of that is coming from diaspora. So, you know, there's something wrong with the way we look at.
But we have 190 billion leaving.
Yes, we have 190 leaving the continent. It's a lot of money to leave the continent without tax that's owed to the continent paid up, because we don't know how to ask for tax.
So it's much ado about nothing when the Western world is talking about AIDS and, you know, helping Africa.
Aid into Africa is 24 billion. Why are we even having that discussion? It's a non-starter for a discussion. There's nothing we're discussing about aid. There's nothing to talk about.
I agree, there is nothing to talk about because if it's only 24 billion that is going to the whole of Africa as aid, then they are making such a big noise about it. But I know that just Nigeria alone, we have 30 billion coming in from the diaspora.
Exactly. And you know what? Unfortunately, diaspora money, what does it come to do?
Just not for investment, for sure.
Exactly. It's coming to go to our parents for sustainability when African assets are sitting in Switzerland and other offshore banks, tax havens. Why? Why are we doing that? Who does that? What normal human being with the right head over their neck does something like that? This is why the central bank needs to relook at exactly the African Central Bank, the one that is overall for Africa, beyond you come to the World Bank, before you come to IFC and the World Bank and everywhere else, there has to be a localized African central bank that does the number crunching for Africa as a continent. And we need to tax for every single revenue that's generated on the continent. It must be taxed before money leaves the continent. Companies must pay their due to the countries where they're domiciled.
You understand why African countries are not bold enough to do that, because then they are afraid they will scare off all these foreigners.
Actually, why are they afraid? They should, you see, you know what you just said? I'll call it what it is. That's the demon. That's a lie. You are sitting in your soil, in your land, with your assets, which includes your humans who are part of the asset, who pay tax to these entities, and you're afraid to negotiate for that country with an international investor? I mean, who are you?
Because they are aware that they don't have too many investors coming anyway, especially direct investment. Direct capital investment.
But that is only because they haven't structured their policies right. If you structure your policy right, and at the gate you negotiate right, and you're not thinking about your own belly or pocket, you would be negotiating on behalf of your country and your people, and you would be having an integral conversation, and the decisions you would be making would be beneficial to everyone. And by international law and standard, that person you're talking to is by default regulated where they're coming from. So you should even be using their own regulation to structure your own deals. If you haven't created your own regulation in your country, then you should use their regulation in their country to structure your own deals.
We
need to start reading more. We need to start doing more. We need to wake up. We need to be woke.
But they are trying to create what Western people also call free tax haven. Maybe that's their interpretation of it.
Well, a free tax haven, by the way, there's no such a thing as a free tax haven. When I set up a fund in the Cayman Islands, at no point does that fund equal that the taxpayer will not pay tax. All you're doing is hedging against double taxation. That is what we're doing. With a new international legal securities law, everybody, with technology today, everybody will pay tax. So there's no such a thing as not paying tax, unless you don't want to live on the earth where we are now, with the technology as it is. Artificial intelligence today knows where you are, knows how much money you have in your bank accounts, knows how many bank accounts you have. So there's no going to be hiding. So get it together and reorganize your thinking, because a time is coming when you must pay attention to the fact that you will pay tax. In fact, I'd even caution Africa to rethink their current central bank structures with international banks or international affiliated central banks. We should decentralize. This is why blockchain and cryptocurrency comes into play. People need to be aware of what decentralization has in place for the opportunities for economies to double down, which is what everybody else is doing.
What would you say to, there are a lot of African people right now in the diaspora who are working hard.
Yes.
And trying to make money, and the only thing they do is send money to their relatives and families to sustain them, to build a house and things. So what would you tell those kind of Africans that have been able to amass some wealth, but they don't really know what to do with it going forward, apart from just buying some real estate and some cars?
They should actually be making investments. All these mutual funds and other money markets where a lot of other international people have made money, why are they not putting money in? Why haven't they put their money in there? If you're helping your family, help them with 10% of your total extra resources. Because don't forget, the more you pump money, which is a good thing, to groups of people who are not also working, it has a negative effect to the economy. And a lot of people have also lost money building houses that were never built. But the money flowed, So we need to really be smart about how we do what we do.
Well, the one thing that I know I can tell of Nigeria for sure, is that most of these people are being taken advantage of by churches, and a lot of their money end up in the pastor's pocket.
I've listened to some of your shows, yes.
Yes, and they end up without any investment and without any savings even, because there's a doctrine in African Christian churches. You don't talk about the only way for you to keep your money is not through investment. Only through sowing and seeding. You have to go and take it to the pastor. You don't invest because that is worldly.
My own sister gave her 2 million shilling property piece of land to a pastor. My own sister, we gave her a cooker because we had extra cookers in our house. We gave her one. She went and gave it to a pastor. So don't tell me, let's not have this conversation, because I am not going to have this conversation. I don't want to have it. And this has to change.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I've experienced it myself. Today, my sister would be owning a 4-5-story building on that property she gave away. She'd be collecting rent. Her children would be happy. She wouldn't have to need to go to anyone for anything, but she gave her assets to the church. It's ridiculous. It's absurd.
So you know what we are talking about.
Trust me, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not even amused. I can't laugh. I'm so mad.
Because I thought that, wow, I didn't know this has gone so bad.
It's very bad.
Because I know of people in this country, in Europe here, their parents are struggling back at home. They send the school fees for these children to go to school, and the first thing they do before they even get to the school office to pay their school fees, they go to the church. And by the time they give 10% and prophet offering and church offering and all these other offerings, they don't have money anymore left for school fees.
you see, this is why you're about to open a whole other can of worms. So this is how evil has overtaken. We really need to go back to scripture. We really need to go back to the truth. We really need to go back and change the altar. We have a demonic altar operating and manifesting across everywhere, globally, and it needs to stop. All these witches and warlords must be brought down in the name of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And the kingdom business and the economic gate is a place that we need to have people praying. We need to sort out the economic gate. The reason why the money is flowing back the way you just described it is because where the money came from in the beginning was already flawed. So it's just finding its way back. So we need to change the mindsets of businessmen and women about how they run their businesses, because they need to clean their money. They need to pray for their money. The altars must be broken at the economic gate. Because that is where the problem is. Nothing wrong with the pastors, because you know what? Who takes you to the pastor who you end up giving everything? You take yourself.
Wow.
But it's we haven't been praying for the gates. We need to take possession.
No, the reason I mentioned this situation with the pastors is because you spoke about investment. Our people, at least talking of Nigeria, many of them never heard of investment. The only investment they've heard about is sow and reap. Give and it will be given to you 30 times, 60, 100 without you doing anything about it. So the pastor is asking for your cash and giving you promises.
Yes, and let me tell you, if the cash you're holding in your hand has the blessing of God in it, you would never take it to the pastor. That's what I'm talking about. So we have very many ways to look at we can look at this from all kinds of dimensions, but the first thing we need to sort out is the negotiation of the money and how the money is flowing in.
I was just thinking, maybe you also talking about your investment fund. Maybe you need a department of it that will enlighten Africans about investment. Western people understand investment, but not too much of Africans.
Yes.
Africans understand petty trade. Africans understand business, import and export, working hard.
Trade, the traders.
Trade, but traders, But you are talking about investment, not about trade.
Yes. I'm talking about, and that's why my company became a corporate entity, because I built it with the idea of building for tomorrow, and therefore put in place the systems that come into play for building for tomorrow. We were the 31st licensed operator, and most of the operators before 31, which was us, most of them don't exist anymore. But the foundation was a foundation of Jesus Christ. That's the other thing. What is the foundation that we're building our businesses on? Because if you build, I think in so many ways you're right about the church, because we should be teaching the right doctrine.
Yes.
So that it trickles down into our businesses and everything else. So I can do what I do. I do what I need to do in my area of work and vocation. But we need to be more of us doing this.
Yeah.
People in governments need to do this.
Yeah.
People in the school system, the teaching system need to do this. People in the medical fraternity need to do this. People in accounting and finance and capital markets should be doing this. It's how we're making decisions that determine the outcome. You shall know them by their fruit. So every work, whatever we do every day, should produce good fruit as a human race.
Okay, what would you say about, in Nigeria, for example, we have a group of people, we call them, it's a tribe, it's a nationality in Nigeria, we call them Igbos.
Right.
And these Igbo people, they are very entrepreneurial, they are very enterprising.
Right.
But what I've noticed among them is that if I give you the list of the top 10 billionaires in Nigeria, you will hardly find an Igbo person there. And the reason is because even though they are very much entrepreneurial and enterprising, a lot of them are doing business, but the business don't get to the level when it becomes like, you know, an enterprise, like you said about your company. You know, it kind of dies with the man. It doesn't go transgenerational. So it's like family business that is big enough why the main guy is there. Then a few years after he's dead, it's almost like people don't know how to take it further. This is not just among the Igbos, but among Africans in general. Is there is your foundation, is it looking at this kind of phenomena?
Actually, those are the entities that we're looking at across the continent. But I want to bring to your attention something. The list you just talked to me about, can you go back and check whether the list you described happens to have an entity within them that actually comes from an international organization connection?
Maybe they started that way, but they don't represent that right now.
Okay, so there was something in the foundation.
The Nigerian business billionaires, they were actually supported by the government, by the Nigerian government at a point. We used to have a government under President Obasanjo. He had a target of creating 150 billionaires in Nigeria, in US dollars. So he succeeded in creating 50 billionaires. So what?
Now, do you see what you said?
Yeah.
You just said it. You said everything we were saying earlier.
Okay.
Government, the people in government, how they think and how they implement policy. That was a policy implementation that produced that outcome. And that type of people that was there, that is what we should have everywhere.
But before this particular group of people came to the Nigerian government, we didn't have a single billionaire in US dollars as an individual. Yeah.
Now, you can imagine taking that story and catapulting it across the continent and implementing exactly that roadmap, what we would produce. Because the country where I live and other developed marketplaces, that's exactly what they do. The decisions come from a higher place. The policy determines the success. Yeah, economic development is based on policy. And the policy then is, they're watchdogs for the policy to implement it successfully and to build strong institutions in the finance, in all the sectors. And in fact, where there has been success, they are watchdogs making sure that that success remains in the hands of those people. But we need to be thinking, planning, organizing, doing in exactly that way. Coming together with one intent to do for the nation, to do for the country, to do for our children and our children's children.
Purposeful.
Diligently. It's the only way. And stop talking. We need to stop talking. There's so much we're talking about. We need to stop talking. We're talking too much. We need to do, talk a little bit. Do, talk a little bit. Do, come back, evaluate what you've done, but the talking must stop.
Can you tell us about the nature and the structure of your fund?
It's a Cayman registered fund for good reason, because everybody has to take care of their own tax, and it's a tax haven from that perspective. So
have you been to, by the way, just the side talk, have you been to the Cayman Island?
I haven't been to the Cayman Islands. I've been to the Mauritius Island.
Mauritius Island, that's in Africa, but the Cayman Island is a piece of heaven here on earth. I spent 2 weeks there, and
yes.
You know what? It can only be compared to Aruba. Aruba is
yes.
not bad, but Cayman's Island is a piece of heaven here. Please.
I'll be going there soon.
Okay. Well,
I'll be going there very soon.
It's a place, especially if you need some serenity.
Yes, it's a place you want to go.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of the videos, so I know.
Okay, go ahead, please.
But so it's registered there, and then the offering memorandum and the subscription documents have been designed for them to attract investors from North America, from Africa. I just finished getting the documentation for Africa and for Canada. So, and international. So there's an international angle, and then there's specifically Canadian and the American and the African investors. So basically the offering memorandum and the subscription documents are given to institutional investors, accredited institutional investors, and or licensed investors, who then can actually look at the documents and determine their interest to invest. And the projects on the African continent are going to be focused on growth. So we're not a VC, we're not a venture capital, we're actually a private equity firm. And we have the structure of a global private equity fund. And we also have the support of the administrator, who's actually domiciled here in Canada, and the investment manager is domiciled in Canada as well. The companies that are the management of the assets will be done out of the African countries where we're investing. So the fund's investment manager will have offices on the continent. So that's the plan.
So you are actually selling this more to the outside world of the continent?
No, Africa. I have Africa. Africa will take 100 million as a portion, okay, and the rest of the world will take the other portion.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So people who are listening to you in Africa right now, and they're yes. having small businesses,
yes,
and they're asking, what's going to be my place in this?
So again, when you say businesses, I'd like to caution, again, I'm talking about institutional investors and accredited investors. Those that can afford the $1 million to invest can access the investment, and they can send me an email if there is interest.
Okay, let email show, please.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Institutional investors
yes.
and accredited investors or licensed investors have a play, and the share is the minimum investment required is at least $1 million.
Yes. Okay, but yeah. On the other hand, you also spoke about the sectors that you are identifying.
Yes.
So is it a secret? Can you tell us
No, I tell you the sectors right now. It's agribusiness. It's trade and asset finance, because the money has to flow. It's actually real estate, and the real estate is to support the agribusiness, because and the renewable energy, because we need the factories. We need to build factories with machinery and equipment and technology that has a throughput that makes sense for the continued growth of the middle class that we're seeing on the continent, particularly because we have 65% of our population is the youth. And so when we talk about the trade and asset finance, it's actually about making sure that those factories also are able to get money from us to put in place the infrastructure that is required. And then there's the education area that we're saying, to educate this population, mass population group of youth, we need to have proper housing for the universities. So student housing is a big conversation around the investment portfolios. So that's how, again, real estate plugs in. All right. And then there's obviously technology by default, because again, I come from the technology space, so we're going to be investing and putting investments into the technology space.
If I get you right, for example, if I know people in the let's take technology for example, in the technology area, some people who are very promising. For example, I saw somebody, a story, I actually profiled him as well, a Zimbabwean inventor.
Yes.
Who he has actually been caught up. I think that guy is going to be a Nikola Tesla of the modern world.
Africa.
Maybe of Africa. But this guy, God works with him the same way like he worked with Nikola Tesla. He will sleep and he will have a dream of the invention. This is coming just from an ordinary lad.
Yes.
So it will come
but
up
God
with,
works that way. God works with ordinary people.
Yeah, you know him?
I don't know him, but I'm just saying God works with ordinary people.
Yeah, because it's unbelievable. His story is incredible because God, will give him the idea in his dream, then he will find a way of working it out. So now, because he couldn't get the necessary help he needed in Africa, America just took him, the American government took him over because he's created, all kind of inventions, including an airplane that doesn't use fuel and things like that. Or helicopter that does amazing stuff. So people like this who have potential, like for example in Nigeria, I met some other guys. One is making electricity from the soil, just from the ground. So one is making electricity from storm, from thunder. Some people, so another one is, building tractors. And these are just guys who have not even gone to engineering schools. So, so when you talk about identifying potential people in Africa and supporting them, are these kind of things, I'm just talking about the technology area now, but are these kind of things that your fund is looking at, doing in Africa or not?
So again, I talked about the fact our focus is a private equity fund focused on growth companies that have existed for a while.
Okay.
The ones we spoke about that need to pivot.
Okay.
So
you are talking more like those people I talk about, the Igbos who have been successful, but they need to go to the next level.
Stuck. Yes. And there are very many everywhere, including Kenya and other parts of the continent.
Okay.
Local indigenous entities that have existed that need to push to build global African brands.
Just like this Kenyan lady, for example, that came all over from Kenya, moved to Nigeria, started doing it's the most popular coffee spot, the first one in Lagos, and it's grown. It's become, everybody is leaving their offices to go to drink Kenyan coffee in Lagos.
Yes.
But so you are talking about this kind of, because she wants to expand and she wants to go to every African country. This is the kind of people we are talking about.
Exactly. So every time you think of any brand that has been in existence for a while, that should be an African brand, but you're familiar to seeing, you're only seeing it in one country, in a very small marketplace, when you know that it's existed and it should actually be everywhere across the continent. That is our target in the sectors that I described.
Beautiful.
Yes. Because that's what we know how to do.
So, going back to talk about these African diasporas.
So we will be able to, a lot of them actually, the ones that are very successful can do the ticket, the $1 million ticket easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they will have to go and license themselves somewhere.
And they should, because that's what we're missing, is that people are not educating themselves and getting into the bandwagon like everyone else in the world to benefit from what we see that others have done before us.
To know how to really do this official
officially. You know, this thing of doing stuff, you know, wahala, dukawala, you know, we need to stop doing those things. The trader mentality needs to shift.
So, but this is going to be run as a global corporation. Is it also
Yes.
going to be, are you going to, what do you call it? Are you going to register it in any of the world stock market?
After
Is it
10
going
years.
to be listed?
After 10 years.
Okay, okay,
Yes, not now.
okay. Ooh, wow. You know, I'm going to give the people who are watching us some opportunity, Kinigi. I'm going to give people who are watching us opportunity to try and call in. Maybe some people want to join in the conversation. So,
Yes.
you know, people have the opportunity to call into the show. And so I want to call upon all our viewers who are watching us. And if you want to join in this conversation, go to Facebook. You want to say something?
Yeah, can you give me a second?
Okay, okay. If you want to join us, just go to Facebook Messenger. Facebook Messenger. And when you get to Facebook Messenger, look for Move Agents. Move Agents. Move Agents. And when you get to Move Agents, just write us, drop us a line that you would like to call. So go to Facebook Messenger, look for Move Agents, and then just write a note that you want to call. Meanwhile, I want to introduce you to my latest book. My latest book is called How to Turn Everything Negative to Positive. How to Turn Everything Negative to Positive. So this book here will be a great inspiration for you to turn everything in your life that has been negative into positive, and not just in your life, in your environment, in the world you live in your, you know, in your country, in the other people's lives. Just helping people turn things around from negative to positive. And there are a lot of examples and situations and scenarios in that book that will really help to get this done. The second book that I want to talk about today is a book that is in line with the topic that we're addressing right now. If somebody could go from a Kenyan hairdresser to becoming a multi-millionaire in Kenya, in Africa, in US dollars, there's one or two things we have to learn. And one of the things we have to learn is in this book, that no one is better than you, including Njeri. Njeri also is not better than you. No one is better than you. No one is better than me. And all of us can become anything that we wish to become. So that's the name of this book. That's the title of this book. No one is better than you. Okay, let's see if we're going to have some callers or not. But if you want to contribute to this conversation, like I said, go to Facebook Messenger. And when you get to Facebook Messenger, just drop us a line and write that you want to call. You know, you look for, in Facebook Messenger, you look for Move Agents, and then you say you would like to call. Wow, what a story. How can you believe that? She's talking high-level economist right there, high-level business. That's this global kind of business. She's on top of her games. She's on top of it. She's on top of it. And now I wish that our African people would get in touch with this lady and get to learn from her, and also get to hook on to what she wants to do. She's a phenomenal.
The person whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable. Please leave a message after the beep.
She is a huge example for Africa and for Africans. And I wish that our people will take advantage of her experience, of the knowledge she's bringing to the table, and of the fund. She started this fund for the whole of Africa. She's a brave lady. She's not staying in a backyard in Kenya. She wants to take the whole of Africa by storm. And she wants to teach Africa and Africans to do global business. to do global business. And for a woman to be controlling hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, ho, ho, ho. Believe me, she knows something. Let's have some calls. Meanwhile, let's have some calls and let's find out if there are some people out there who understand what we are talking about. Yes? Hello?
Hello? Yes, hello.
Yes, sir. Who is calling, please?
This is Nkrumah.
Nkrumah! NK? Is that NK?
Yes, it is NK.
Oh, what a surprise! Wow, I can't believe it. Did you know that? I mean, how come? Did you ever hear of Njeri?
No, I think I saw her once on BBC.
Yes.
I saw on BBC once.
She's one of your hidden diamond in that country.
I can see that. I'm totally encouraged, Pastor Sunday. Totally encouraged.
You have to get her email.
I did.
Okay.
I put it down, and I will definitely contact her.
She's now based in Canada, though.
Yeah, no, she came there when I left.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes.
No, she is a wonderful story. Wonderful story.
I've just been listening, and I've been blown away by the amount of work she has done in the period of time that she's been in, I guess, the investment banking world, and putting together a fund, because it's not that easy to put together a fund.
No, she is going for it.
Yeah, I can see. And having been on the ground and talking to the entrepreneurs that she is looking for, I can tell you everything she's saying is spot on. It's so on point, and I think for me, I think the fire right now is bubbling, because all I can imagine is the amount of time Africa has wasted in looking for help elsewhere, and looking for others to come and step in the gap.
Wow.
Yet we have all the potential and all the capacity and capability to do it here on the ground. So yeah, the time is now. The time is now for Africa.
She goes to Kenya frequently, and if I mention the name of her company, you will know that they are the leading providers of internet. And
Wananchi online. I know it.
You know it. Okay.
Yes.
So so but she is not even looking back what she has done. She's
she's moving forward, eh?
in a big stride.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I was listening to how she was able to put the fund together in the Cayman Islands. That's not easy. It's not an easy fit to do.
No, she is good. She is good.
And the sectors that she's going for, let me just tell you a little bit. I mean, I'm sure there are other people who are calling in.
Okay.
But let me just tell you a little bit, especially about the agribusiness.
Yes, sir.
If you're looking at a population where we have less than people, I mean, they're under 35 years of age.
Yes.
People under 35 years of age.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead. You said you were talking about agriculture.
Yeah, agribusiness. It's such a huge sector right now that let me say the Western world is looking to see how they can pour money into it, because most of the systems are so underdeveloped to the point that when produce is being taken out of the ground.
Hello? Oh, did I lose him? Hello? Ooh. Huh? Hello, Nkrumah. No, not Drugo. Yes, Drugo is one. No, why Drugo Moshe? I think I lost him. He's calling all the way from Kenya. But he was based in, I know him very well. He's one of my disciples, so to say. He was based in Canada, moved from Canada to Kenya. It was after he left for Kenya that Njeri left Kenya for Canada. They missed each other. But he's in the financial, he was a banker in Canada, actually. And so he went back to Africa to try to make things happen in Africa. And so I'm sure he will be excited with this Njeri, and I'm sure they will connect. Hello? Okay, I think we have other callers that will be coming in. Meanwhile, for those of you who want to really find out more information about business, I've written so many books about economy, business, finances. Check them out on Amazon. And I have a whole a whole series of teachings on finances and business. And so, yeah, you could go to my YouTube and find those out as well and listen to some of those will be a blessing to you. But this Sunday evening, our time here is a time that I bring in people who are innovative and creative, who are bold enough to step out and do something different. And, it could be any kind of innovation. Today we are doing financial innovation and investment, but sometimes it could be, it could be creativity and other things. And let's go back to Njeri then. And hello, Njeri.
Hello.
Yes, we just got a call from Kenya.
Nice.
He's a friend of mine, and he was in Canada, but he left just before you came to Canada.
Really?
He's a banker. He used to be a banker in Canada.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there are very many bankers, Kenyan and African bankers in Toronto.
Yeah, and he was a banker like that, and he moved back just to try to help the continent. And he said those sectors that you mentioned, that they are so spot on.
Yes.
Being a banker himself, he said he's regularly meeting with this kind of people you are also profiling. You want to you want to target. Your target audience, all these businesses that are local, but even though successful, he said, he understands exactly what you are talking about because he's interacting with all of them back at home.
Right, exactly. And there's not enough money being given to them.
Yeah, that's why they couldn't go global.
Yes.
But with this, what would you say about this new policy of, is it African Trade Union?
The trade union. I talked about that when we started the show. It's the 49 states that have come together, put together a contract.
Don't worry, Nigeria is going to join now. Nigeria is coming on.
Yes. It's so amazing. It's going to really change the way we do business. We're going to have a lot of challenges, but every single time you hear a challenge, it's an opportunity. What will you
say about African, is it Development Bank?
Yes.
Do you know about those?
Of course. I know about the African Development Banks, but they focus on infrastructure. What I'm focusing on is a different type of infrastructure. I'm talking about the soft, it's the SMEs. I'm focusing about the SMEs, and my target audience is businesses and entrepreneurs like myself. That's my target audience.
So your target is not brick and clay, but your target is people.
My target is people, and where there is a requirement for clay and brick, that's not the real estate I talked to you about for the factories, all right, to bring on board the infrastructure that's required to produce, to mass produce and do distribution.
Where will you
get, the continent.
Okay, let's say you have this fund coming together, all this money in. Where will you get your developers from?
When you say developers, you're talking about...
Okay, because those people
the employees.
No, I'm talking about people who are going to actually introduce to them the new technology and maybe expatriates that will make them to be able to...
We have African diaspora everywhere. All we need to do is position a proper migration of skills onto the continent with a back office that is fully aware about what we're trying to do. I came back from the US after my going around the different, I've lived in 7 countries, Kenya included. So after I finished my globe trotting, I came back to Kenya and I set up Wananchi. So people like me are everywhere, but we need to be able to talk. I will be able to sell the story to any skill set that I identify that I want to run or be part of the companies that we're investing in.
Yeah, because some of these local people, even though they are successful where they are right now, but to go global, like from Kenya to Nigeria, South Africa, and compete there and experience the same level of success that they have wherever they are, they might need some developers, some people around.
We need the diaspora. That's my focus, is the diaspora. That's why, if you looked at my list of things I sent you, I have the Africa Expert Forum. That is where that's where I capture my skill set from.
African
Expertforum.com. Africa Expert, EXPACT.
Africa
Expert Forum. EXPERT.com.
Africa Experts Forum.
Expertforum.com. Yes. So that I've got this through. I started the fund over 7 years ago and then dumped it. So I had a folder on my computer. I've had a folder on my computer for 8 years. The first time I went to my lawyers and flew to Mauritius to set up this fund was 8 years ago with my colleague. And then we talked to the lawyers, we talked to financiers, we talked to all kinds of people, including looking at the market. And I, at that point, by the time I was thinking about it, I had 7 fund managers looking for me, for me to become their deal broker, deal maker. And I said, no, I'm going to set up my own fund. So I've been on the ground doing a lot of homework.
Okay. So what about people who are watching us right now? They are in different countries and different categories. Before we go, we only have 5 minutes left. What would you like to tell them?
I think I really would like for people to recognize that they are capable of 1,000 points more than they're putting in today. I need people to recognize they need to stop talking and thinking and procrastinating and doing. To achieve what they want to achieve, they need to go back to their center, their God, because God in them is greater than anything else in the world. And we can do it. It's been done before. We can do it. It can be done again. Wow. Every single human being is created with the mechanism to be whoever they want to be in this kingdom here on earth.
You know, there is a book I'm displaying right now. It's called No One is Better Than You. So you mean everybody is good enough to become anything he wants to become?
It's in the mind, it's in the heart. They need to connect this too. And then they need to anchor with God.
What about if they are single women, like you were when you started?
Exactly. So I did it, so why can't they?
Well, in Africa, a lot of people look down at themselves, especially as women, and say, I don't have a help, I don't have a husband, don't have a man.
Well, I can assure you, so many things have happened to me. But what my focus has been is I can do this. I'm going to do this. I'm doing it for the continent or the country. And for as long as that is what I'm doing, then nothing will stop me. And I'm also doing it with God. I'm not on my own.
Wow.
The gentleman you were describing who's visualizing the innovation in his brain, in his mind and in his heart and in his dreams, it's exactly the same way God imparts for me my meetings, my sessions, my ideas, and my concepts. God will give you, it's like a television in your own head of exactly what you want to achieve if you reach out to him.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. Wow. Hard worker. You are a hard worker.
Yes.
Does that mean working 8 hours a day or 18 hours a day?
Actually, there's a time for 18 hours a day, and I've done that. And then there's a time for 8 hours a day, and I've done that. And there's also a time for 4 hours a day.
Okay.
There's a season for everything. The first act must be 16, 18 hours a day. The second act, 8 hours a day. The third act, 4 hours a day.
Well, that's the lady right there, Njeri. And she is put Kenya on the map. And we can, all of us, all Africans can only be proud of her. And I want to say thank you so very much, Njeri, for coming to be with us today. And yeah, I'm sure you have impacted so many other people today. And you have become, Njeri Rionge has become a hero in the heart of a lot of other people today. And I'm sure that you'll be receiving a lot of letters very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Glory be to God. Thank you.
Blessings. I'll be back again in the next 25 minutes to continue my series on leadership. A leader is a ladder. A leader is a ladder. So I'm waiting for all of you to join us in the next series. If you have not yet taken this book yet, How to Turn Everything Negative to Positive, let's just do that. And of course, nobody is better than you. And I will see you in the next 25 minutes. Peace.